Episode 1a, Chiasmus in the Book of Mormon. Chiasmus, a literary device that involves the repetition of ideas in reverse order, often presented as ABBA, has become one of the most discussed features of the Book of Mormon. It is frequently cited as evidence that the book has an ancient origin, with scholars like John W. Welch and Hugh Nibley arguing that such a sophisticated literary device could not have been the product of Joseph Smith's limited education. But how significant is chiasmus in proving the Book of Mormon's ancient authenticity? Can it be relied upon as proof of divine authorship, or is it just a literary device that has been overemphasized by defenders of the text? The argument for chiasmus as evidence of ancient origins. Chiasmus is a form of parallelism where ideas or phrases are mirrored symmetrically. It is commonly found in ancient Hebrew and Greek literature, where it serves as a device to emphasize central themes. John W. Welch, a prominent defender of the Book of Mormon, argues that the presence of chiasmus in the text is proof that it must have come from an ancient source, perhaps divinely inspired. He points out that the fact that chiasmus appears in the Book of Mormon, especially in the way it is employed, suggests a deep connection to ancient literary traditions, perhaps even pointing to a divine origin for the text. Welch, Chiasmus in the Book of Mormon, BYU Studies 2005. This claim is echoed by Saints Unscripted, a popular platform among Latter-day Saints, which often highlights chiasmus as key evidence for the authenticity of the Book of Mormon. In their videos and website, they argue, chiasmus is not something that was widely understood in the 19th century. Its discovery in the Book of Mormon suggests that this is not the work of an uneducated man, but rather a text with an ancient and divine origin. Saints Unscripted, YouTube 2020. For those who support the Book of Mormon's divine origins, this argument is compelling. They claim that Joseph Smith, with his minimal formal education, could not have known or utilized such an advanced literary device, which only reinforces their belief that the Book of Mormon is more than a product of 19th century America. A closer look at chiasmus in the Book of Mormon. Some of the examples presented to support the Book of Mormon as authentic would be Mosiah 3:18-19. I am taking these directly off the byu.edu page as they present it, to prove the Book of Mormon does not portray what is claimed. They humble themselves and become as little children, and believe that salvation is, and through the atoning blood of Christ, the Lord. For the natural man is an enemy to God, and has been from the fall of Adam, and will be forever and ever, unless he yields to the enticings of the Holy Spirit, and putteth off the natural man, and becometh a saint through the atonement of Christ the Lord, and becometh as a child, submissive, meek, humble. Some elements such as from the fall of Adam and forever and ever don't align directly with the chiastic structure, and may appear as additional details rather than parallel ideas. If you plug the complete verses into a Chiasmus simulator, once again it fails. This is the output we receive. The passage from Mosiah 3:18-19 contains elements that can be analyzed for chiastic structure, but its alignment with strict chiasmus principles is debatable. Chiasmus requires a mirrored or inverted parallelism where themes or phrases follow a pattern such as ABCCBA. Here's an attempt to structure this passage as a chiasmus. A. They humble themselves, B, and become as little children, C, and believe that salvation is in and through the atoning blood of Christ the Lord, D. For the natural man is an enemy to God, E, and has been from the fall of Adam, and will be forever and ever, G, unless he yields to the enticings of the Holy Spirit, F, and putteth off the natural man, E, and becometh a saint through the atonement of Christ the Lord, D, and becometh as a child, submissive, meek, humble, C, and believe that salvation is in and through the atoning blood of Christ the Lord, B, and become as little children, A, and humble themselves. Let's take a look at another example, byu.edu, used stating it proves the Book of Mormon. We will examine Mosiah 5:10-12. Whosoever shall not take upon him the name of Christ must be called by some other name. Therefore he findeth himself on the left hand of God. And I would that ye should remember also that this is the name that never should be blotted out, except it be through transgression. Therefore take heed that ye do not transgress, that the name be not blotted out of your hearts. I would that ye should remember to retain the name, that ye are not found on the left hand of God, but that ye hear and know the voice by which ye shall be called, name by which he shall call you. Here is this output. This passage demonstrates a chiastic-like structure in its thematic emphasis on transformation through humility and the atonement of Christ. However, it does not form a perfect chiasmus in the strictest sense, because the parallels are more conceptual than directly mirrored. It is a sophisticated rhetorical device that reflects Hebraic literary patterns, but may not be a fully structured chiasmus. Defenders like Welch point to this as a perfect example of chiastic parallelism, where the elements are reversed in the second half of the passage. However, critics have raised concerns that while the passage does mirror ideas, it does not strictly follow the ABBA structure characteristic of true chiasmus. This has led some scholars, such as Dan Vogel, to suggest that the chiastic elements may be more thematic than formally structured. Vogel writes, "This may seem like chiasmus, but when examined closely, the parallelism is more coincidental than carefully constructed. It doesn't quite meet the formal definition of chiasmus that would be expected from an ancient text." Vogel, Joseph Smith, and the Origins of the Book of Mormon, 2004. Another frequently cited passage is Helaman 9:6-11, which describes the murder of a judge and the ensuing confusion. The passage is often presented as a chiastic example, with ideas about the murder and the subsequent events mirroring each other in structure. Here's the portion. 6th, now immediately when the judge had been murdered, he being stabbed by his brother by a garb of secrecy, and he fled, and the servants ran and told the people, raising the cry of murder among them. 7, behold, the people did gather themselves together unto the place of the judgment seat. And behold, to their astonishment they saw those 5 men who had fallen to the earth. And now behold, the people knew nothing concerning the multitude who had gathered together at the garden of Nephi. Therefore they said among themselves, These men are they who have murdered the judge, and God has smitten them, that they could not flee from us. And it came to pass that they laid hold on them, and bound them, and cast them into prison. And there was a proclamation sent abroad that the judge was slain, and that the murderers had been taken, and were cast into prison. And it came to pass that on the morrow the people did assemble themselves together to mourn and to fast, at the burial of the great chief judge who had been slain. And thus also those judges who were at the garden of Nephi, and heard his words, were also gathered together at the burial. While defenders point to the mirrored narrative elements here as evidence of chiasmus, a closer look reveals that the structure is more thematic than formal. The passage repeats key elements but does not fit the typical ABBA symmetry of true chiasmus. Saints Unscripted continues to highlight these passages as proof of the Book of Mormon's ancient origin, despite criticisms that the chiastic structure isn't always perfect. They argue, even though these examples might not perfectly fit the literary definition of chiasmus, the presence of chiastic patterns in such a large number of places suggests that Joseph Smith had access to ancient literary traditions that were largely unknown in his time. Saints Unscripted, YouTube, 2020. Skeptical arguments against chiasmus in the Book of Mormon. While defenders like Welch and Saints Unscripted argue that chiasmus is proof of the Book of Mormon's ancient and divine origins, from Saints Unscripted, so skeptics generally attempt to devalue chiasmus in the Book of Mormon using at least one of 3 arguments. We'll look at 2 right now, and the third one in a moment. 1, chiasmus in the Book of Mormon isn't special because it also shows up in many modern works, such as Green Eggs and Ham or Hickory Dickory Dock. 2, there are much stronger cases of chiasmus found in ancient works, especially in the Hebrew Bible. Chiasmus is a literary device that is not exclusive to the ancient world or a particular culture, so its presence in the Book of Mormon doesn't prove its ancient origins. 3, chiasmus in the Book of Mormon isn't special precisely because chiasmus can appear by chance, such as in this example someone found in a computer manual. Couldn't Book of Mormon chiasms also just be there by chance? Well, when researchers plugged the top 4 proposed chiasms from the Book of Mormon into their formula, in each case, it was determined that there was less than a 2% chance that they appear by accident. The most impressive chiastic structure in the Book of Mormon is the powerfully Christ-centered chiasm in Alma chapter 36. The chance that it was produced by accident is 0.018%. Skeptics point out that chiasmus isn't confined to ancient literature, but can be found in a variety of modern texts as well. This challenges the claim that its presence in the Book of Mormon necessarily points to an ancient origin. The broader context, chiasmus and the 19th century influence. One key point that gets overlooked in discussions about chiasmus in the Book of Mormon is that Joseph Smith's time was not devoid of literary influence. The King James Bible, which Joseph Smith was intimately familiar with, contains many examples of chiasmus. As BYU.edu points out, chiasmus appears throughout the King James Bible and other contemporary religious literature of the 19th century. This raises the possibility that Joseph Smith could have encountered these structures and incorporated them into the Book of Mormon. BYU.edu, Chiasmus in the Book of Mormon, 2020. This context is crucial. Smith was living in a time when the Bible was the most widely read text in the English-speaking world. Chiasmus was not a foreign concept, and it's likely that Smith's use of the device was influenced by his frequent engagement with biblical texts. Even though he may not have consciously replicated exact chiastic structures, it's possible that his use of parallelism and thematic mirroring was influenced by what he had read. The case for overstatement. While the presence of chiasmus in the Book of Mormon is interesting, the argument that it conclusively proves ancient origins is not as airtight as some may claim. In fact, many scholars suggest that the use of chiasmus in the Book of Mormon is not evidence of divine inspiration, but rather a product of Joseph Smith's literary environment. Robert Price, a noted critic of the Book of Mormon, has questioned whether the chiastic structures in the text truly indicate an ancient origin, or whether they are simply a result of pattern-seeking behavior. He argues, the claim that chiasmus proves the ancient origins of the Book of Mormon is deeply flawed. There is no inherent reason why chiasmus could not have been constructed by someone in the 19th century. It's a device that anyone with an education in classical literature could have recognized and employed. Price, The Mormon Delusion, 2010. And chiasmus is a rhetorical device that has been used in many cultures, including by 19th century authors. There's nothing inherently miraculous about its presence in the Book of Mormon. Price, The Book of Mormon, a Biography, 2012. This view holds that chiasmus, while interesting, doesn't serve as definitive proof of the Book of Mormon's ancient origins. Rather, it could simply be a reflection of literary techniques that were known in Smith's time. Thank you so kindly for watching. This is the Ex-Mormon Informant signing off for today.